Health Minister Gan Kim Yong tells Parliament Singapore has secured enough COVID-19 vaccines for everybody, but you cannot choose which one to take.
Allowing individuals to have choice of vaccines will unnecessarily complicate this already complex vaccination program. So there is no choice.
Rebounding from the pandemic, Singapore's economy is set to return to growth this year after shrinking 5.8% in 2020. And the super trees at Gardens by the Bay will dance again with the full light and sound show restarting on Friday. Welcome to The Big Story, the first one of the new year, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. Well, in the first parliamentary sitting of the new year, Health Minister Gan Kim Yong said prior bookings will be necessary before people can receive their COVID-19 shot. The government is concurrently readying clinics and vaccination centres for people to be vaccinated when it's their turn, even as healthcare workers are receiving their shots within their healthcare institutions.
While our healthcare workers are receiving their vaccinations within their healthcare institutions, we are concurrently readying clinics and vaccination centres for others to be vaccinated when it is their turn. Prior bookings will be necessary given the cold chain requirements at the vaccination sites and multi-dose vials of the vaccines.
Well, those who opt to take the vaccine will receive a physical vaccination card and can check their vaccination records online. The card will indicate which vaccine was administered and the appointment dates for the second vaccine dose. It will also have brief post-vaccination advice.
Every person who is vaccinated will receive a physical vaccination card, and this will remind them of their appointment to return for their second dose. Indicate clearly which vaccine was administered and provide brief post-vaccination advice. In addition, any person who is vaccinated will have their record updated in the National Immunization Registry, and individuals will be able to check their vaccination status digitally. Well, meanwhile, Education Minister and co-chair of the COVID-19 Multi-Ministry Task Force, Lawrence Wong, said the government is monitoring studies on the effectiveness of the vaccines and it will consider relaxing stay-home measures for vaccinated travellers if the vaccines prove to significantly curb the spread of the disease. For now, the same border and SHN rules apply to both vaccinated and non-vaccinated travellers.
There are several ongoing studies on the effectiveness of vaccines in reducing transmission risk, and we are monitoring these very carefully. So to Ms. Herting-Ru's question, if there is clear evidence that transmission risk can be lowered significantly, then we will certainly consider some relaxation to the SHN regime for vaccinated travelers. But for now, we will continue to take a more cautious approach. In other words, vaccinated travelers will continue to be subjected to prevailing border measures and SHN requirements. We will fine-tune our approach over time once we better understand the effect of the vaccine.
Well, the Straits Times' Deputy News Editor Royston Sim is here to weigh in on the other vaccination-related announcements. Welcome, Roy. So, more vaccines, we heard, are expected to arrive in the next few months, including those from Moderna and Sinovac. Also, Pfizer, Moderna, Sinovac, even when we have a portfolio of, these COVID-19 vaccines, Mr. Gan said we cannot choose which ones we're able to receive. How did he reason this?
Well, he said that when the vaccines arrive, it will depend on two factors mainly. The first is the suitability of the vaccines for your different population groups, and the second is the availability of the vaccines. So right now we have only the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine that has been approved. The Moderna and Sinovac vaccines are still being reviewed by HSA. So currently at the moment, there is no choice. There's only the Pfizer vaccine that we can take. But when the time comes, he did give the assurance that any vaccine that's being approved, that's been approved by the authorities, would have gone through very strict safety and efficacy checks. So, as long as it's been approved, it would have been deemed safe, it would have been deemed efficient. And so, for suitable groups, his message is basically there's nothing to worry about. And his other point is also that, allowing people to choose which type of vaccine they would want would make a very complicated exercise even more complex. I mean, he made the point that, this is the biggest vaccination exercise that we've done basically since 1959, which was when we vaccinated, I think, slightly over 1 million people, for smallpox. And so, we're looking at all Singapore residents, and citizens. So it's a massive, massive exercise, and I think they want to minimize, factors. Already it's going to be a huge logistical endeavor.
Of course. Yeah. Well, also, a new financial assistance program will be introduced to provide support for those who experience serious side effects related to the COVID-19 vaccines administered in Singapore. How far will this go in mitigating any worries that the vaccine is safe?
I think it will help, for people who have concerns that, if I take the vaccine and there are serious side effects, people who are concerned about the monetary aspect of it, I think it will give them some reassurance that, in the event that, something does happen, at least, I will get financial support and be paid for. So I think it will allay concerns on that front. Mr. Gan has also said that based on the data available so far, your side effects appear to be, pain at the injection site, some headaches, fever, and they expect this to go away after a couple of days. And, that he expects people who might eventually need to tap on this support scheme. Expects very few people to actually need it because so far the side effects appear, based on the data available, to be quite mild.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, Roy, stick around because we do want to hear your thoughts on the termination of the high-speed rail project. Because on that subject, Transport Minister Ong Ye Kung said Singapore couldn't accept Malaysia's proposal to remove the system supplier and network operator.
Be clear about this, which is Singapore was not obligated to agree to any of such changes because we signed an agreement in 2016 already. But notwithstanding, we considered them in good faith. But we were unable to agree to one particularly significant change proposed by Malaysia. This involved the removal of the assets company, short form we call it Assets Co., which is the system supplier and network operator of the HSR service between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur.
Well, and in response to a question on whether the HSR's cancellation will affect the Singapore-Johor Bahru Rapid Transit System project, Mr. Ong reassured that the project will continue.
RTS is progressing well so far. The JB side have broken ground. On our side, we will break ground soon. And we hope the project and the service can commence in 2026 as scheduled.
Well, let's bring in Deputy News Editor Royston Sim once more. So, Royston, could you help us underscore the significance of the Assets Company, the Assets Co., and why removing it was a major sticking point and that contributed, to the termination of the entire project?
Right, basically this assets company, it would have been called by both countries via a joint international tender. They would have appointed a best-in-class industry player who would have come in, to design, to build, to finance and also operate all the trains, the rolling stock for this high-speed rail line, and also all the rail assets. So you're talking about the tracks, the power systems, the signaling systems, and so on. And it would also be the network operator, as the minister mentioned. So, let's take a step back and talk about high-speed rail line. It would have two components. One would have been a cross-border service from KL to Jurong East, and the other was a domestic service within Malaysia. And so this assets company, would have given, equal priority to would ensure priority or parity between the domestic service and the cross-border service. And so over time it would have minimized the chances of any disputes or disagreements over the project. And this project would have spanned decades, a long time. And I think one important point that Mr. Ong made was that it would have protected the interests of both countries. And so that's why the removal of this assets company basically the minister described it as a fundamental departure from the original bilateral agreement. So that's why removing it is a no-go for Singapore. It's a very significant change that we just can't agree to.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ong, he also told Parliament that Singapore has spent about $270 million on this project so far. What did he say for compensation then?
Right, so this 270 million, comprises land acquisition costs, various abortive costs for different aspects of the project. So he said that compensation would cover the abortive costs, but not the land acquisition costs, because the value of the land, can be recovered over time. He also said that because of confidentiality obligations under the HSR agreement, he can't disclose, the exact amount. Unfortunately, we don't know how much, Malaysia will compensate us over the project. But he also said that, the proceedings for compensation are underway and will carry on.
Right. I think several MPs actually brought up the issue of compensation, but he was not allowed to say because of what you mentioned about confidentiality.
Right. So the HSR agreement does set out, the amount of compensation, and the schedule of payments, but there's also a confidentiality clause, and that's why, we are none the wiser as to what this amount is.
Right. Yeah. Well, on another topic, as we speak, today's Parliament sitting is being live streamed to the public. For the first time ever. So, right. But back in September, Communications and Information Minister S. Iswaran said that when it comes with live streaming, there's a risk of MPs playing to the gallery instead of, seriously debating national issues. Did you see any such cases today, or any other changes in tone or delivery from the MPs?
Not today, no. Today there were really some significant parliamentary questions filed and addressed, and also the ministerial statement on COVID-19. And I mean, MPs asked questions on all various facets of our COVID response, but I didn't see anyone playing to the gallery, as you would say it. But I suppose it's still really early days, and we'll have to see, as the live streaming continues and Parliament continues, whether in any such instances crop up.
Yep. And it will continue for future sessions, I believe.
Yes, it will. That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Royston. That was Royston Sim, a deputy news editor at the Straits Times. So, as Royston and I discussed, Parliament is being live streamed today, and this in accordance with global and technological trends, and will continue for future sessions. The full video of each live stream will remain on the Communications and Information Ministry's YouTube channel for 6 months after the end of the sitting.
These arrangements already give us the full benefits of transparency, accountability, and accessibility. With live streaming, members of the public will now also be able to watch proceedings in real time without having to be physically present in Parliament. As I explained in September last year, the government has agreed to this in view of the global and technological trends which have made online streaming more feasible and enabled legislatures around the world to live stream their proceedings. Even as we seek deeper engagement of our citizens through the live streaming of parliamentary proceedings, we must preserve the integrity and dignity of Parliament as a forum for serious debate on national issues.
Well, 24 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed today, all imported and now serving stay-home notices or in isolation. The cases include a Singaporean and 15 foreign domestic workers. The Health Ministry will share more details tonight. According to the Home Affairs Ministry, under a new pilot program expected to start this month, selected KTV outlets may be allowed to reopen without their customers needing to take a COVID-19 swab test. But these outlets must observe a different set of rules, like a maximum group size of 2 and a ban on liquor consumption. KTV outlets can apply for this option or the default that requires customers to undergo COVID-19 testing. But this default option allows outlets to accept customers in groups of up to 8 and serve alcohol until 10:30 p.m. No changes will be allowed once an outlet receives approval of the option it chose. Singapore's economy is showing more signs of a gradual recovery. GDP shrank 3.8% in the last quarter of 2020 from a year earlier, improving on a revised 5.6% fall in the 3 months before. The flash data also showed that for the whole of last year, GDP contracted by 5.8%. Economist Song Seng-Woon said he's hopeful that the economy will grow by 4 to 6% this year.
It's still a very fragile, very uneven recovery going into the first half of the year, and obviously with better news on the vaccine front, treatment front, containment front, a more broad-based recovery to be entrenched in the second half onwards, and that hopefully will give us growth in the mid to upper end of that range forecast, with more broad-based contribution from all the key clusters.
Visitors to Gardens by the Bay will get to enjoy the full suite of its light and sound show from this Friday. Garden Rhapsody at Super Tree Grove will return to its original time slots of 7:45 p.m. and 8:45 p.m. every evening. There are 11 other shows lined up for this year. Hey, it's almost time for dinner, so how about a bowl of fishball noodles? Sounds pretty appetizing given that the weather has been so chilly recently, especially, right? So when I think of fishball noodles, Fei Siong comes to mind, which started with just one stall but has 15 brands and nearly 160 outlets today. The Straits Times speaks to its founders.
I started my school when I was secondary 3. I realized, I like to do my own business. So the first outlet, I tried to do fishball.
We still maintain that mandate that we want to sell not cheap but good quality food to our people.
It's good to have more variety coming in. We'll have many heritage food coming along also. Because Singapore is a unique country, we are hawker. So if this hawker food can be showcased to every country, then it will make us proud.
Well, you can watch the full interview with the founders of the Fei Siong Group at straitstimes.com or on our YouTube channel. Well, across the causeway, Malaysia is in talks with Singapore to standardize health protocols for cross-border travel for compassionate reasons. Currently, Malaysians working in Singapore and who wish to return to the country for compassionate reasons had to put in an appeal on whether Malaysians working in Singapore would be allowed to return upon showing proof of vaccination in the future. Malaysia's Foreign Minister Hisham Mudin Hussein said the matter was under the purview of the Health Ministry. Well, Britain has become the first country to roll out AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine. 82-year-old dialysis patient Brian Pinker was first in line to be given the jab at Oxford University Hospital. It's one of 6 hospitals that will administer the first of around 530,000 doses Britain has ready, and the program will be expanded to hundreds of other sites in the coming days. If you recall, last month Britain became the first country to use the vaccine produced by Pfizer and BioNTech. Closer to home, Indonesia started its nationwide distribution of Sinovac's vaccine yesterday, with mass inoculations scheduled to begin later this month. Indonesia plans to inoculate more than 65% of its population within 15 months. The shots will be first given to its 1.3 million health workers. Another 17.4 million frontline workers will get vaccinated after, and then people 60 years old and above will get the jab between January and April. In an audio recording obtained by the Washington Post, U.S. President Donald Trump could be heard on a phone call urging a Georgia state official to find enough votes to overturn the election results. Mr. Trump lost the presidential lost the presidential race in Georgia by 11,779 votes.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
On an hour-long phone call on Saturday, Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Ratzenberger, a Republican, pushed back against Mr. Trump's suggestion, telling him, quote, "The data you have is wrong." Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden will receive a shortened military escort to the White House on Inauguration Day instead of the traditional parade that stretches from the U.S. Capitol. The inaugural festivities will also include a formal review of troops as well as a made-for-TV virtual parade with musical acts, marching bands, dance troops and essential workers. The inaugural planners have urged Biden supporters not to travel to Washington for the ceremony. Well, those are our top stories for today. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.